Happy Christmas, everybody. That's John Lennon. Happy Christmas. War is over. He was wrong, but I think in spirit he was correct.
Yeah, but maybe we didn't want it enough.
Oh, we
forgot
definitely
that
didn't want it about. Yeah, I think it was a dare, and it's a dare that we'd rather not take. You know? But you feel it today, right? You feel, Christmas. You got to feel good about it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not. I find it interesting that people that are even atheists get the Christmas spirit. So that must mean that the central idea of what John Lennon was talking about, or Jesus Christ was talking about, or any songwriter talks about, it really is all you need is love.
Yeah, and connecting with the people that you care about, and then trying to apply that to people who are strangers to you.
People that you don't care about.
Yeah.
In the Christian way, you would say it that everyone you meet is Jesus. And if you look at it from a quantum physics idea, it does make sense that we're all the same. But what I've never figured out is why love seems to be the central reason to be alive in the first place.
Yeah, it's the thing that is most human. I mean, we don't have a point to life, but it seems to be, if there was a general consensus, I think it would be love is what we've come up with so far.
Yeah. And we can't even explain why, but it certainly seems like not only the thing that matters the most, but it's the only thing that matters at all, that everything else will melt away. No matter where you are in the world, experience that feeling, if only for a moment today. That's what I want to say to people. And then the other thing I want to say is, I hope you got me a present.
Oh my God. So many presents.
To me, Christmas is about the presents. We are playing some of our favorite people who came in here at Christmas. Danny Aiello is everybody's favorite person. What amazed me the year that he came in and hung out with us and sang for us and basically slayed us is that he had just lost his son. And he was so raw and sweet, but broken. Literally a broken man who was still trying to make others laugh, trying to make others enjoy life. Again, it was what we were talking about. What else is important? He lost his son, but the memory of that love never goes away. So it was so really great and enlightening that we have a tendency to play this back on Christmas. And this is the Bennington Show, and this is Mr. Danny Aiello. Nice to see you. This is the brand new album that Danny Aiello has done for us, and it's My Christmas Song for You. Danny, what a pleasure to have you come here. And this song by Hoagie Carmichael, how did you even find this song?
Well, my piano player, who's also Woody Allen's piano player, I like to say he's mine, but Woody's a little taller than I am. No, not really. I'm 6'3". He's a midget, for Christ's sake. And hard to work. He doesn't pay too much either. But Connell and I were working on a Christmas album up at his house in Nyack, and with my band leader, Joe Geary. And out of nowhere, he pulls out this obscure song. He said, "Geez, Danny, I think it's something you may like."
Yeah.
So I placated him. I looked at it, My Christmas Song for You, and okay, and I put it on the side. I'm sitting with it for about 2 weeks, and I bring it back to rehearsal at his house, and I'm sitting with Lou Baldineri, who's the project director. And I said, "Lou, listen to this song. Do you see this song?" So I'm beginning to learn it, and I'm falling in love with it. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, Louis says to me, that'll be a good name for an album. And I said, "That's the name. It's going to be My Christmas Song for You," and that's where it came from. It was recorded once, Ron, in 1940 by the Mills Brothers. It's a wonderful little song. I just love it to hell,
And it's amazing that, by such a great songwriter that has been kind of left on the shelf for so long when we got so many people doing Christmas songs every year.
It surprises me why no one found it. There was another song, which is an obscure song, which I put in my act whenever I'm performing. Because Bobby Darin was one of my favorites. He probably was the one that molded my life musically. Not in any tragic way. It's just that I remember his music as being a very happy time for me, or many happy times for me. He did a song called The Curtain Falls, which he technically never recorded in the studio, but he did record it live. And how did he get it? He was watching a Bob Hope show, a tour show. And Bob Hope was playing the song Curtain Falls, and he said, "Can I use that, Mr. Hope?" And he said, "Of course you can." So it became one of his... I would think that Bobby was using it as his closer, and it was Curtain Falls, and I had never heard that song either.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Paul Anker about it, and Paul was a big fan of Bobby also, never heard of the song, and before you know it, I'm doing it. I'm saying, this is a great song.
Yeah.
Where the hell has this song been? Same feeling I have with my Christmas song for you.
And by the way, the album was just gorgeous as well.
That's an oil painting done by Gennaro D'Alessio, who calls himself Jimmy DeLucio. It was a little too Ginzo-ish, you know what I mean? So he made it like a little Michelangelo, you know what I mean? He wants to be known as Michelangelo, my boy Gennaro. But he's done this for me. He's a special kind of a painter. And the project was very moving for me. As you know, Ron, I lost my son, and in May, my son Danny, who was a big stunt coordinator, and there is a picture of me, of course, on the album at the front, but the only contemporary piece on the album face is me in 2010. But if you look at all the rest of the painting on the album, you'll notice that's all 1939. Yeah. You'll see me standing in the setting. That's all 1939. Those buildings, the fire escapes, everything that you see there is 1939, which no longer exists on West 68th Street. It is now Lincoln Center or a part thereof. And if you see all the way down in the corner, I know your audience can't see it now, but if they happen to get it, they'll see it. There's a little face that's looking out of a subterranean basement. You see the lit up area? That's me when I was 6 years old, looking at me under the lamppost in 2010. So that's what that is. It's very significant. Jimmy understood what I wanted. Of course, this was dedicated to my son Danny, and it came out in pictures, you know. Right. These are dreams that I had, and I said, Jimmy, I need this, I need that. He started with a little pencil drawing at a restaurant. Before you know it, he came up with this magnificent piece of art, which I love better than the album. Yeah,
it's really, really gorgeous. It was one of the first things, because when I picked this up, I was looking at it on the way back, and I'm like, this is stunning. And that, you know, you brought up, like, you know, using Woody as piano player, and you've got that New York thing too. Like so many of the films that you've done have been that New York thing.
I'm a New York Ginzo, from word go, you know what I mean? But I'm not one of those real Ginzos, you know what I mean? Because I have no tolerance of them. I speak a little better English whenever it's necessary. But I have played characters which I say are a little too Ginzo-ish, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get away from that stuff. I was going to say shit, but I don't know if I
you're
can
allowed
say
to say you're allowed to say shit here.
I have never said shit on radio before. I want you to know that I have never done it before. You guys excused me and gave me the right to do it.
Anything that you want to say here, you can.
Okay.
But so with this film, with this, I call it a film because it kind of does have a cinematic feel to the entire album, and that you've done something that I don't see a lot of people do. You tell stories as well as sing these songs.
Yeah, at the beginning of the album, as you know, the song Underneath Me is being played, My Christmas Song for You, which I conclude the album with. It was like a bookend thing. I wanted the story to be told at the beginning and a story at the end and all the wild music in between. The idea of the thing at the beginning, again, I was talking to Connell, and who was my piano player, and Joe Geary, my band leader, and Lewis, and we were discussing what I was going to do at the front. So we were thinking like everyone thinks. What is the name of the Christmas thing? My Christmas? The Night Before Christmas, which of course is it's a poem, a musical poem, which is done by many, many people and has been done for years. I said, I don't want to do that. And I had planned to do that. You know, I was going to do it and then get into the album. I said, no, I want to write my own. So, of course, I took theatrical license in some areas of the opening poem. But basically, it's based in fact. There are little things that I don't remember exactly at the age of 6 of saying to my mother, but I imagined some of those things were exactly the things that I had said. But my grandfather waking me up at 6 a.m. to give me a nickel, and I got excited because a nickel meant so much then. And it was the first tree that I remember. So I looked into my parlor and I saw a tree. It looked more like a Hanukkah bush. It really wasn't a major tree, because I grew 7 foot. The bigger the trees, the greater it was when I was a kid growing up. But we were very poor. We didn't have a father, and mom raised 7 kids for a while, then 6. So there wasn't really anything. So when I looked in the parlor and I saw this tree, it wasn't a very big tree, but it was a tree. And in later years, someone in the family told me that my sister Helen might have pinched it. Well, it isn't that she might have pinched it. She did. She stole the tree. She stole the goddamn tree in the first tree. And like in the album, I say that it was decorated in such a way that you could not imagine it today. I mean, the kids today wouldn't appreciate it. They said, what are you kidding? What gives a shit? But when I looked at that tree, it had bottle caps, colored bottle caps that were tied to different color shoestrings. And on the tree also, as a decoration, was socks that we wore that were filled with tiny little candies. So, I mean, to think of that, it was an exquisite thing, and it was something I said I have to write about. Who'd believe that shit? And you can't believe it because it actually happened.
But isn't it kind of amazing when you think back to those years? The less you have, it doesn't take that much to bring happiness.
Yes.
And then when you have so much like, we're able to achieve in this country, it gets harder. You hear about depression and anxiety, but people worry more the more things that they have.
Complexity. Look, before I was an actor, I was I was a thief. I did fucking things that you can not. I fucking hit people. I worked at the improvisation. I did the craziest shit you can imagine. When I thought, I always had a fear of being homeless, the children not being able to afford to keep a roof over their heads. So I was very nervous about things. When I worked at the improvisation, I was making $150 a week. I couldn't support a family on $150, so I went out and I did some things. I never hurt anybody.
Right.
I never physically confronted. I never sold drugs. I've always been anti-drugs. But I did shit, man. I went into second floors, in places that were empty. I saw safes. I didn't have to open the fucking safe. I threw it out a window. If it opened, then we did. If it didn't open, we went downstairs, we took the safe, we put it in the fucking car, drove it to a junkyard, and we beat it with sledgehammers until it opened. Sometimes I got $1, sometimes 20. The biggest score was $500. So I did all of that crazy shit, and...
But you think that came from lack of security? You never felt comfortable?
Only because of family. I would never have done those things had I been responsible for myself.
Right.
And I am not excusing myself for the things that I've done. I was lucky I didn't get busted. Right. I have nightmares to this day about shit that I did and wondered why I didn't go away because of it. And the reason I didn't go away was because I wasn't caught. So I was one of those guys that were lucky. But again, it wasn't a major crime. It wasn't against another individual. It wasn't drugs, but it was illegal. And I did those shits. But let me tell you something. When I became, forgive me, quote unquote famous, where I can walk in Paris, I can walk in Spain, and a group of kids will follow me and say, that's Danny Aiello. It's a wonderful, proud moment. But complexity enters your life at that time like you could never imagine. When I had a quarter in my pocket, I had some of the greatest days of my life. When I worked at the Improv, although I always had that fear about being homeless, they were the happiest moments of my life. I was struggling, but the struggle was a good struggle. Now you're worried about who the fuck is robbing your money.
Yeah,
you know, I had this financial advisor. He ripped me for this. You don't know if you're going to make fucking money. And actors, historically, we don't know anything about money.
Yeah.
We don't know shit about money. All we know as actors is someone's going to steal our fucking money when we make a lot of it because we don't pay attention to it.
And then there's that, I guess, that other fear that, what is the next project? I mean, it's not like you have a steady gig. I mean, your career looks phenomenal from this point of view, but as you're going along, you had no idea. Right. If there's going to be another Woody Allen film, a Spike Lee film, you never know.
Ron, you're so right because, you got to get lucky more than once as an actor. By that, I mean, because each time you do a gig, you finish, you're unemployed.
Right.
You do a gig, you're unemployed. You always have that fear in your mind. Am I going to get another fucking job or not? Am I going to get another job? Because each job is finished. Then the other job. Who's going to give you the next one? I mean, you don't go around going, oh, am I going to get a job? Am I going to get a job? But the fact of the matter is, it's exactly what the situation is. You got the job. You scored. It's finished. When's the next one coming? And are you going to get another one?
You know, it's kind of a famous story that you worked there at the Improv, and a lot of those comics didn't even know that you were an actor, that you didn't bring it up at night. Was that kind of
David Brenner, when they saw me for the first time, David Fry, who was a great impressionist.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know
unbelievable.
David.
Sure.
David was one of the funniest son of bitches, one of the great impressionists. Him and Rich Little, of course. But they never knew, you know, I was there simply as a guy. You know, people take you for what they see.
Mm-hmm.
I was a guy at the door who said, "How many are you?"
Right.
I mean, there were 4 fucking people in front of me. I know what part of the job was, how many are you? They're right there in front of you. How many are you? What the fuck? So, that was what I was doing. I never hit anyone there because, they're not effeminate comedians, but they don't get hit.
Right.
You know, most of them are full of shit and they, talk about themselves and they don't know what the fuck's happening, but you don't hit them. You take care of them. And, the experience of watching these people, because when I started there, I was not an actor. I had no thought of being an actor, never studied acting. Bud Friedman, I was a ringer. I was a great ball player. I was an outstanding, I was a switch hit. I could bang shit, forget about it. And Bud liked me and he put me on the improvisational softball team at a Broadway show league. So I excelled. And that's where my show business career began.
Just being around those people.
Yeah, I was there watching them. Never did I want to be a monologist because I always felt it was too difficult. Well, maybe that wasn't the answer. Maybe not that it was difficult, but it was just something that didn't interest me. I didn't want to make people laugh all the time. I like doing it now if I was capable of doing it, but at that time I was more serious, a serious kind of a guy, so laughing was not part of my repertoire. But I watched people grow from almost nothing and become significant people within the industry of comedy. And it was very impressive to me. Of course, I never felt I could do it, but I always used to say, where do I fit? Where the fuck do I fit? I got 3 kids, then 4. I can hardly support. Where the fuck am I going? Who am I? Am I a bouncer all my fucking life? I just lost a great job. I was a union president. Okay, now how do you get a union president job? You can't. You can't go into a place and say, hey, let me become a fucking union president. You got to be elected. So the reason I got that job is people thought that I would be a good union president. I didn't know shit about unions, but they trusted me. In Montreal, the drivers who only spoke French, I used to conduct union meetings at the Laurentian Hotel in Montreal. I was a young kid. They didn't know what the fuck I was saying. Half of them didn't speak English. They didn't understand. And one guy come over and broke in English, Danny, we trust your eyes. They fucking trusted me.
The same thing that made you a great actor.
Well, I don't know if it was a great actor, but I think apparently that was it. And you know what they did for me, and they showed their love for me, because in 1967, we had a problem with the company stating that they were going to put something into effect that I thought would adversely affect the people that I represented, specifically the drivers. And I said, you'll do it over my dead body. Well, they did. They put it into effect. They removed me from office pending an investigation because I was threatening to strike. And when they got word of this in Canada, that I was removed from office pending an investigation, they decided to go out in a wildcat strike. And they wrecked 4 buses. All the aluminum parts on these double-deck buses, they came out on the road and the thruway with fucking sledgehammers. They removed all the patrons, all the passengers from the bus and wrecked 4 buses. And they sued me for $500,000 because I was the one who started all this shit. So they were showing me their love. But unfortunately, I was removed from office pending the investigation. They had it. They fired me. And this is when I became somewhat disillusioned with the unions at the time, because the unions worked in conjunction with the company and to get rid of me. When the union should have been protecting my ass, and they didn't. They left me out on an island by myself, and I had balls like an elephant. I didn't give a fuck. I mean, I said, fuck you too. I'm doing this, fuck you and you. And people used to look and say, this fuck is crazy. I wasn't crazy. I was fucking honest. When a person got in trouble, they used to do this before I became union president. You're an employee. You're one of the kids I represent. Or you get banged out. You get in trouble. They bring you into an office. They talk to you. Now you go out and they bring me in, your union representative, not with you witnessing it, but you out of the room. And what do? They bargain. They said, well, I'll give you Jim, you give me Tom, I'll give you this. I didn't believe in that shit. You got in trouble. I said, this kid is in the fucking office with me. We sit there and we're going to talk and we're going to fight and we're going to handle his grievance and we're going to see if we can beat this thing. But you're going to be there witnessing every account of what happens. That never happened before until I was there. So I was a legend in my own mind. And at that particular time, that people really did dig me.
I love the fact that you said you couldn't do monologues when this monologue right here was
that's a fucking
phenomenal, right?
Don't fuck with me, Robert. That's another Robert. We got Robert Chaffee, a great comedian, this young man.
We could take that story right there to Broadway and we start to
I'm going to be doing Capone on Broadway. Robert Mitchell, who's in a room with us, says he's previously written, if I may. I'm sorry, Ron.
No, go ahead.
If I'm talking too much,
no,
just stop me, and I am. But Rob wrote a play called Joe DiMaggio, which was an off-Broadway musical, which was a hit. And then he had written a show called Vincent, which is based on the letters of Vincent van Gogh, which is also interpreted as a hit off-Broadway. Then he seeked me out for a while. He had written a play called Capone. Now, we all know who Al Capone is. You know, we can go out to a 9-year-old kid and they'll tell us who. But this Capone is not like the caricature Capone that we're accustomed to seeing. A guy with a white fucking hat, a machine gun, talking like a jerk off and shooting people. No. On the contrary, this Capone is somewhat like a Lee Iacocca. He's very bright. But one of the major problems is he's dying. It's the last days of his life. He's in Palm Isle, Florida. He's just been released from jail. And the reason he was released, because he was rendered no longer harmful to the public. He's dying of syphilis. So 80% of what he does in this play is hallucinatory. Everything's based in fact, but he talks to religious figures. He talks to Mary the Virgin. He talks to Jesus Christ. He talks to God. He talks to the people he's killed. It's one of the most interesting plays that I would ever have the opportunity to do. It's the culminating point of my life, and we're in a process now. We're in workshop. We're rehearsing it, and hopefully we're going to be on Broadway with it. Probably in 4 months. That's what we're looking toward. We're very excited. It's a musical.
Yeah.
I sing 22 fucking songs. If you can stand that.
Original songs or?
All original stuff.
Yeah.
He composed it. Robert Mitchell composed it. It's just great.
Wow, I can't wait for this.
Anything that can keep me awake at night and constantly rehearsing for the last year and a half has got to be great. That's what fucking Robert Mitchell has done.
Wow. I can't wait for this. And it's kind of interesting because it goes back to that other story of here's some of these people. If they found the right thing, like you were able to do with acting, they could be brilliant at it. But if not, crime was that option, you know, and it happens. You know, you see so many guys are drug dealers. You're like, this guy should have been an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what you're selling. He's got the sales attitude out there. So
absolutely. Well, that's happening now in rap, I suppose.
Sure.
A lot of these guys that are now icons, you know, they're sitting on tons of money. They came from a place, well, I always consider myself a half a thief, but anything that involves drugs, I have.
Right.
You see, that, to me, that's, or murder or rape, that's something entirely different. But we know that there are things that people do, never forgivable, but they've done things where you can look and say, oh, he robbed a fucking bank, which is terrible.
Right.
It's a terrible thing, but because of the balls that you show to do it, to walk into a fucking bank without a gun, you know, with your dick in your hand, you got a pair of balls or you're out of your fucking mind. You know, whatever. I like this guy.
Yeah, well,
you know, you got a good face.
Thank you very much.
You should be a fucking actor, man. I'm telling you the truth.
I will. What we could do is like maybe Al Capone could have a friend who just comes out.
It's a multimedia thing, and the friends do disappear. He talks to apparitions, and they're there at the moment, then they disappear. We got you covered.
Yeah. I also
excuse me
before, and I want to get back to your album, but I wanted to bring this up to you. Philip Carlo.
He's one of my dearest friends.
A dear friend of yours came in and did this show with me sometime back. Not that long before he passed away. And I thought he was one of the most remarkable people I ever met in my life. I think it would be great. I think he's got one more book that they're going to put out. I would love to get some of his friends together sometime when the book comes out and maybe talk about it.
Yes, we will. And he was a special human being.
Yeah.
We had lunch about 2 weeks before, Louis Baldonado, myself, and Phil. We kept trying to see each other as often as possible. Unfortunately, you know, as you know, he had ALS, unable to breathe in a wheelchair with this tube constantly, but he never, ever, not for a single moment, did he allow you to feel sorry for him.
It's unbelievable.
The fucking man was a hero.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, I've known Phil for over 30 years, and he came over to me and Lou one day. We're having lunch, and he knows that I just lost my son. So I'm sitting there, and we're both sort of bathing, and he looks at me and he says, now, remember all the pain he's in.
Yeah.
And he says, Danny, do you remember we were in Hudson Hawk? We were in Rome together. And I said, yeah, I remember. He said, remember we were traveling and Danny, your son Danny, was driving us all through Italy? I said, yeah. I said, that was a wonderful time. He said, do you know what your son said to me? I said, what? I asked him who his hero was, and you know what he said? He said, you were his hero. And my son never told me that, sure. And I never heard that. But you see, he knew that I was hurt at that moment, forgetting about the condition that he was in.
Yeah.
And he wanted to brighten my life for that moment by telling me. Because, you know, when you lose your son, it's not the order of things.
No.
You begin to go through your mind like, did my son love me? Was I a good father? Did I do the right thing for him? Was I there for him when he needed? And you never quite know the answer. You really don't know the answer. Maybe some people are more secure than I am, and maybe they would know the answer. However, I didn't know the answer. And that moment, he just lightened my life to say that my son told him that. He died 2 weeks later, and he didn't die of ALS. He outlived ALS. He died of cancer, which I didn't even know because he was coming to see some of the Al Capone rehearsals. And he kept texting me. He said, Danny, I'm so sorry I have chemo. And I only knew at that time that it was in addition to ALS. And then the shock came 2 weeks later that he passed on.
Yeah.
Of course, I went to the funeral with a lot of the friends. He told me that Mickey Rourke's doing this movie.
Right, he was so happy about that. Yeah.
And I told him, why Mickey? What about me? I said, Mickey's not me, for Christ's sake. Mickey's whatever. Mickey's terrific.
But Bring Phil is the first time I met him is he had been very, very sick, and to do an interview with somebody who, as I'm asking him a question, he had to take oxygen and answer it but still stayed focused into this. It wasn't about that. I thought he was one of the most remarkable people, and he had the same kind of confidence that you have, even though he was in this position.
Yes.
Like everything you've been through this year, you're still able to bring light in with you, which is an amazing thing.
Not like that hero. Whatever I do, my friends will tell you, I'll sit for a moment and then there's no apparent, there is a reason, but not obvious to anyone who's sitting with me who may not know of the situation. You start crying.
Sure.
And because it's a helpless feeling when you see a vision before you all of your years and then suddenly he's no longer there. It's like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's just a terrible thing. And him talking the way he did with all the troubles that he had, he was truly, Ron.
Yeah.
He is a special human
being.
Yeah,
he is. And he never stopped working.
And a pair of balls like an elephant.
Yeah.
I'm not talking like physically elephant. I'm talking like he had fucking guts. He was a rough fucking kid.
Yeah.
He was like me, big fucking left hook, straight hand. We used to wing shots. Phil was a great kid. I love you, Philly. We're talking about your kid. We're keeping you alive.
Yeah. Let's get back to your album. You wanted to sing a song for us here today.
You know something? I'll tell you what I'll do. If you play a part of it, I'll sing part of it live. Why listen to me do it? Everyone does that shit.
Yeah.
But if you want me to do something live, I'll do it.
Well, which one of the songs would you like to do?
You want to do the first? Louis, what do you suggest?
Jingle Bells right off?
Yeah, we'll do Jingle.
We'll do Jingle Bells. And this is going to be live. We've just got an instrumental track to play.
If I sing bad, I'm doing it live. Remember that. We always have a backup in case I'm horrible.
All right, here we go. This is Danny Aiello, and the album available, DannyAiello.com, also available on Amazon and in the Colony store in New York, which... one of the great New York record stores. When we're ready.
Anytime. Go ahead, you rat bastard. Born on 68th Street, and it's no longer there, my goddamn house. I hope you enjoyed it, fam.
That was so New York. It's almost like there's balloons falling. We're drinking champagne.
I love it, babe.
Yeah.
Those are the Christmases I remember, and the reason, Ron, I did it is because you play the record, we hear it. Right. I always feel, geez, I wish the guy did it live. Whatever it sounded like, he sounds like he did then. You know what it is? We do it live. It's a lot of fun. And when they hear the record, they'll hear a nice recording in the studio, but there's nothing like this shit that we just did.
No, it's unbelievable. It's
Did you
unbelievable.
like it? I'm looking at the producer. Did you like it?
Did you like it, Fez?
I loved it.
There you go. He loves it. He loves it.
Who the heck are you looking like? Is it George Zunza?
That's what I am. I'm doing a George Zunza
That's
thing.
I'm opposite you, and I'm looking George Zunza. We all used to hang out in Columbus Cafe on 69th Street. You look like a young George Zunza. You good-looking son of a gun. That's straight. I'm straight. I'm heterosexual. I don't want you to think, don't get the wrong opinion.
By the way, looking around here, you're one of the few.
Damn.
Damn.
You know, Howard Stern the other day, we were at the roast. We did it for the Friars Club. They roasted the schmuck. What's his name? Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
the articulate one, right?
Yeah.
The one who does these fucking wonderful movies. The people shooting fucking people's eyes out. One of the most talented guys in the country. And there I'm seeing about 50 yards away from me, there's Howard Stern. And he's with his entourage of people. And I'm waving to him, and he's not seeing me. And there's someone near him, I guess a producer, who's pointing to Howard to look at me. And I couldn't yell. There were hundreds and thousands of people sitting there. So I threw him a kiss, a fucking heterosexual kiss. And now the prick is on the fucking radio saying, Danny threw me a fucking kiss. And everyone thinks I'm that way. Now I got nothing.
No one thinks
I got a lot of kids, a lot of grandchildren.
Right.
And I had a stiff dick for a long period of time, but it never had anything to do with another man. Never.
So we got that out of the way. I don't even. I never. I don't think you ever have to worry about that, Danny. No. With all the roles that you've done.
I know. Well, you said I'm a good actor.
You're a phenomenal actor. For you, what are some of the roles that mean the most to you?
Well, there was a movie I did. It's interesting because I get a lot of calls from Tracy Miller, who happens to be my publicity person, saying that people are requesting 29th Street, which was a movie I did with Anthony LaPaglia, who played my son years back. It was about a lottery, and it was like Christmas time kind of music. So every year they play it around Christmas time. It moves me more than any other movie that I've done because the father and son, not the whole movie, but the father and son relationship between he and I thought was very special. Not because I was acting in it. It could have been anyone, but the relationship between the two characters makes me cry whenever I look at it. And that character, of course, that I played was probably the closest to who I am in life. Now, he claims not to be a loser. I'm not a loser in life, but I understood the emotions that he was going through when the kid called him a loser. That movie, if you wanted to buy it now, they're selling it on eBay for $180.
Wow, is that right?
Now, to go anywhere else, it's $89 to get the thing. And I'm wondering why it's costing people so much money to get that, because it was never reproduced by 20th Century. I'm trying to make a deal now to license it. I love that movie, and I love Ruby, which was another
it was great when
movie
Jack
that
Ruby.
I about 14 people saw it. But
it was a very strong movie.
But a good movie, and the publicity was not much on it. Sometimes you fall into a movie where the studio may not be believing it as much as you do. So therefore, the P&A, the money that is to put in to advertise, they don't put it in. They withdraw it. So the movie, although important, never got out to the people who should have seen it, which is the watching public. That happened with Dinner Rush.
Love Dinner Rush.
And another insignificant movie because, again, there was no money behind it. There were so many movies like that I had done, and it really bothers me because I'm not attaching too much to awards and so forth. I've been fortunate. I won an Academy Award for a movie that I did called Lieberman in Love, which Christine Lottie directed me, and it was a short film. And I was nominated for an Academy Award with Do the Right Thing. But my feeling is there were other movies that I'd done which was worthy of what I'm just talking about. But because no one saw it and they didn't emphasize the importance of the movie, it never got what it deserved.
The Dinner Rush and Tribeca. That restaurant still have the posters
That's
up.
Giorgino's.
And people always go in there. You know, it's so funny that 100% of the people who go in there go there because they've seen the film and they look around and they've kept the restaurant that way. So it's very strange that these little movies that you play, these smaller parts, means so much to people.
They do,
And
yeah.
you're able to do that sometimes in a very small way. I mean, obviously you can play big and bold, and you've done that. But when you start, and it reminds me of this album that you've done, that there's an incredible sensitive side to some of the things that you do where it doesn't seem like you have to do a lot.
When you're Italian, you're 6'3", and you're a hitter, they think there's no sensitivity involved.
Right.
But I'm a very sensitive person, and I express that in ways when people approach me on the street. It's not that I run away from them or treat them coldly. My problem on the street is that when they do react to me in that way, it's hard to separate myself from them.
Right.
I don't know how to say goodbye. You know, I'll sit there for a half hour talking to fucking people, and people will come over to me and say to me, Danny, Jesus Christ, we got to be here.
Yeah,
So
sure.
when anyone's walking down the street with me, it's like it's a problem because they say, Danny, we got to be there in a half hour. And if I don't know how to say goodbye to a person who approaches me in fear that they may feel that I'm cutting them off, isn't that weird?
No, it is strange, but there's also this thing, because I had it when you came in, and I'd never met you before, but I thought right away, it's like, oh, it's so great to see him again. There's something about you, and I don't know whether it's the roles you played or just your personality, but we all feel like you're a relative or a guy from our neighborhood.
We just, who did we just say in here, Rob, the football player?
Oh, Franco Harris.
Franco Harris. I admired this kid for such a long time. He's a sweetheart. He's doing your shows.
Yeah.
And he grabbed me in a room like we've known each other for years. I don't know that Franco and I have ever seen. And he's saying to me and to his friends, I can't believe I'm next to Danny Aiello.
Yeah.
Now I'm standing there saying, I can't believe I'm next to Franco Harris.
Yeah.
The Immaculate Conception.
Right.
That catch that he made against Pittsburgh, I'll never forget. And he's such a sweetheart guy.
Yeah.
But people react that way to me, Ron. They do. You know what my biggest audience is?
What's that?
Blacks.
Is that well?
I walk down, I could be the mayor of Harlem. There's no question.
Yeah.
And you want to know something? The more violent I am in pictures, the more they love me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that means. I threw a kid off a fucking roof in Fort Apache, the Bronx, and there wasn't a black man who didn't go out of his fucking mind and say, I love you.
Yeah.
I fucking love you. They do. And I walk down the street and they don't say, hey, you.
Yeah.
They say, Danny.
Yeah.
They say, hey, Dan, how you doing? Yeah, and it's very exciting.
Well, the other interesting thing is some of those characters like you play like that, it came across, I think, to the black audience as truthful, where so many times they'll, I think that audience has always been able to see through the shit, and you gave them real characters.
And they really do, Ron. I get letters like that, fan letters that indicate you're so real. And you know what acting is to me? Yeah. Acting is recreating life as I know it.
Yeah.
Putting myself in situations that I might have experienced in life or something tantamount to that, the actual experience in the movie. Something similar, same kind of emotion. Reality is important to me. Now, that's not to say I might do a movie where it's a fable, where it's bigger than life. Sure, I can do that too, but those pictures really never interest me. What interests me is recreating life and have a person in the audience say, holy shit.
Yeah.
And remember, my problem when I first began acting, all the reviewers, oh, he's the guy. He's the fucking guy, which is like a left-hand compliment. What the fuck you mean I'm the guy? I'm playing a guy who's with language I've never said before that someone else had written. I'm not the fucking guy. These are not my fucking words, but they keep, and they're left-hand compliments, and they hurt me. Because people say, oh, he's the guy. He's the guy. He's before I became known. You know, and those are the compliments I used to get, and I hated them because I didn't consider them to be complimentary. I considered them that to mean unpolished, not trained, and I wasn't trained. I was never trained as an actor. I went out there and I fucking did. I was a guy in a hurry and I had to make money, so I made money quick.
But the whole thing of that you're playing a character so good, so well that they believe that
it is.
You know, oh, he's just walked off the street, which
that's exactly what they say. And but critics have been kind to me. I don't know why, sometimes overly kind, but early on, as I said, the compliment was that he's the guy. And he's the guy meant to me because I read things into things. I'm saying, he's the guy. What are they saying? Are they saying that he's untrained? Are they saying he's never acted before, he's off the street, and he's lucky? All of these things used to come into my mind. And now I laugh at that shit. And I said, yeah, you should try being real on the fucking screen. Anyone can act. Anyone can act. But you got to be on that fucking screen, and you got to be real. And to be real, it's not the easiest thing in the world. People sometimes get before a camera, it's like being shot. My son Ricky would look at me, and my son Ricky would say, Dad, what do you do? How do you do that? What do you do? I said, Ricky, don't worry, man. He's an actor. I said, Rick, don't worry. Just get out there. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Rick, they're words. They're not fucking bullets. If they're fucking bullets, you gotta duck, and you may fuck up and stutter a little, but they're words that don't mean shit. Let me tell you something else, kid. But Dad, what happens if I forget the lines? If you forget the lines, you're on the stage, faint. Let them fucking pick you up, carry you off the fucking stage, and come back again when you're ready.
Danny Aiello, what a
Thanks,
just
Ron.
a joy having you here
I
today.
love being here with you, man.
Thank you.
We got a friendship that's just begun. And thank you,
we
man.
do, and I would love to bring it back, and we'll do something for Phil Carlo with some of the guys that
I
you
told
know.
you I would.
I would love to do that.
We'll do
Thank you so
something,
much.
make me a part of it. I'll be there with you.
All right, thank you so
You're
much.
a great
my
kid.
friend.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ron.
It's the Bennington Show. Happy Christmas, Gail.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Stanley.
Happy Christmas.
You got that goose that I sent over, right?
Yes.
That's because I felt guilty about not letting you guys have enough heat. I didn't want you guys to have heat this year because it's been too warm. Not that I'm trying to save money. I just don't want you sweating and dehydrating.
You know, when you put it that way,
Yeah.
it's not so bad.
No.
Here, take the goose back.
At least split the goose with them.
You know what? I will have a little bit of that goose.
Good. Good.
Have nothing more than for the pate. We're talking about great Christmas guests who came in here. And Annie Lennox came in. She was promoting a movie, an album that was much more about winter. I guess that the English aren't as caught up with the Christ part of Christmas as we are over here. They're more caught up with the fact that winter is such a big, powerful season.
Frostmas, if you will.
Apparently, she came in as the Queen of the Arctic. Now, here's the thing that kills you about Annie Lennox. I don't know if I've ever met a woman with more power, right? It's almost a masculine power. That I say masculine in the way that it looks like she's going to draw a sword and head into battle with a bunch of men following her. She's really, really a powerful person.
She has such a phenomenal energy. I don't think that there is anyone like her in the entire world. She's such a standout person.
Yeah. And there's great confidence. Well, this is one of the amazing things. So I had a great time with Annie, and it was a day that I knew that Ronnie Spector was coming in. I think it comes up that I bring up to her during this interview that Ronnie Spector is going to be here later on. So it set up this thing that is kind of big, and for us here, people that like music love the moment between the two of them. But we'll start this off. As I say, one of the most powerful singers and personalities I've ever met in my life. This is Annie Lennox. There is Mother Christmas. Mother Christmas is now here with her brand new album. How are you, Annie Lennox?
I just realized this morning that might have to be my title for the rest of my life.
Yes. You are now going to be, well, what was like a winter goddess? I don't know what the name would be there, but you can come along and sing our winter.
Gosh, really?
Yeah. Well, the great thing about this is these songs are so much more traditional than the American Christmas carols, which tend to be about presents and Rudolph and Santa Claus and stuff. You went very traditional.
Well, I kind of sourced the songs that I sang when I was a kid. And that's really been a journey for me, because these songs, I was singing these songs almost 50 years ago. It seems incredible to me. So they're very, very much part of my backbone, my whole sort of consciousness. And to come back to them as an adult so many years later and bring them back in a way that is my own interpretation, with my twist on it. It's just been such a lovely journey for me. I wanted to do it for years. And I also wanted to work with the African Children's Choir. So I've got the two things. They're not on Angels from the Realms of Glory, but they are on about 6 of the tracks in the album.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing for you to do. And I know that Africa is something you've been involved in for many years. When's the first time you went to Africa?
Well, the first time I went to Africa is many, many years ago, back in the 70s. But the really significant trip that I made was to Cape Town in South Africa in 2003, and that was to be part of the launch concert for Nelson Mandela's HIV/AIDS Foundation 46664, and that was the beginning of a whole wake-up call to me to get on board with HIV as it passes on to women and children. Yeah. So it was a huge turning point in my life.
And at that point, just being open to that, again, like you were saying with these Christmas songs, now there will be, a part of you will be stuck with, you've got to live up to that every year, this time of year. But once you get introduced to something, it's almost like you can't then push it away. So in 2003, whether you were expecting it or not, a life-changing moment takes place.
Yes, definitely. I got to step out of a certain kind of bubble, which is a Western bubble, or my own bubble, or all our bubbles. And I went into a place where even, South Africa is a wealthy country for many, many people live in excessive wealth, but the majority of people are living in excessive poverty. Right. So you have the two extremes and a massive gap in between. And there you have, ironically, the post-apartheid nation. Yeah. Inheriting a virus that is just wiping people out. Approximately 1,000 people a day are dying from AIDS-related causes to this day. And the government now are, to the credit, they have got a national strategic plan, as they call it, to try to double access to treatment and to try to reduce the spread of the virus by half. But it's very, very challenging process for them.
What made you then decide to use this children's choir with these songs? I mean, here you are from one part of the world, here they are from the other. What made you think this is going to work?
Yeah. Well, when I first met them, it was in 2004, and I was taking part in another 46664 concert, and they were part of they were part of the backstage crew, and I saw them there. And I fell in love with them. And I knew, one day I'm going to work with these kids. I love them and I want to use their voices. And then I thought, well, one day I want to make a Christmas album with the songs, not a Christmas album. I shouldn't say that. It's not really that. It was, I want to record traditional Christmas carols. That was my main modus operandi. And then I thought, wow, if I'm going to use children's voices, I will put those voices on above anybody else because of what they represent. I mean, they are, in their own way, they are ambassadors of their country. Many of the children are from Uganda and many of them are from South Africa and across different parts of Africa. And they are children that have been given an access to a transformative plan, if you like, through music, through being part of the African Children's Choir. They have opportunity to have education, to have good nutrition, to be dressed well, to be in positive, encouraging circumstances. And these are kids that are coming from villages and remote places or from townships who have very little access out of the trap of poverty. And so you see those kids, and as they're growing up, they become young adults with a light in their eye, with a focus and with an intention, and they're resourceful. And many of them who've been through the process come back to mentor young children again as choir masters, And it's just something that I found hugely inspirational. And sometimes, you hear about stories from developing countries and they're terribly depressing. But so I think when you identify a problem and you find projects that are actually coming with positive responses, I think it's important to highlight them.
And it is also the strangest thing, too, now to see how all these different things that happen in the world, I don't know whether it's because the world seems smaller, but one problem leads to the next and one solution leads to the next. And it's just so interesting that you think that maybe getting to some of these young kids at an early age, solutions are coming up in the future, sometimes 10, 15, 20 years from now, that no one thought about.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
As well as keeping Western armies from going down there 10 or 20 years from now and settling problems. You know, money invested could be money saved, even if it's just like that on a financial level.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, I've given this a lot of consideration, and I think the world is a crazy place. We're so resourceful. We have so many resources, but they're not spread in a fair kind of way. In the Western world, you have access to complete modernity. All of the consumerist items that are out there, if one can afford it. I'm not assuming that everybody can, but they're there. And, you know, we do have clean running water coming out of our taps, for example. We do have access to education, whether it be perfect or not, it doesn't matter. We have access to it, you know. And so many things, access to healthcare, well, that's a very important question here in the United States. When you go to some countries, children are, you know, especially, it's really women and the female child that I'm very much interested in, because that's my gender and I have daughters myself. And that's what I really strongly relate to. I think, you know, we talk about feminism and we sometimes kind of almost like recoil away from the word. And yet I think that female empowerment is so necessary in developing countries where women do not have human rights. They do not have sexual reproductive rights. They just have so few rights, and they don't have access to the things that just fundamental things, you know, sometimes like very simple things that are could be put easily into place to facilitate preventable disease. Last night, I came off the plane at JFK and I was hugely impressed. There's a whole line down the corridor, down the escalator, talking about malaria, preventable disease. It's a big issue. It's not simple to put it in place, but actually a life can be saved with mosquito net, with access to treatment, all of these things, just things that we don't even know about. It's another planet.
It is, but isn't it interesting that, you know, when you grew up, you wouldn't think about Africa, or any of these other nations, but now because of the internet, because people are spreading stuff, that the planet is smaller than ever. And that I hear, just like you brought up the malaria, which has been a problem for a long time, but it gets talked about now more than ever before, that I think it is entering people's consciousness.
You know, I agree with you. And this is what I have to say about it. Western countries are fixated with celebrity and media. That's what really drives the media.
Yeah.
It's hugely powerful. And it enters into our lives through the products that we use. Shampoo, the cars that we buy, the clothes that we wear, whatever. If we could take that resource of interest and place it and direct it in the right way, we could see justice in the world. We could see changes in the world. Positive changes, life-saving changes. So I don't think that I'm being idealistic when I engage with these issues.
Right.
You know, you see what I'm saying? I take my intention and I take my focus as one individual and I put it onto that. And I know that I can't be the solution, but I can be part of I can be part of the contribution towards the effective response.
And again, you know, it does start to take place if introduced to people. And, you know, the audience could be blamed on it, but at the same time, it's because when you are not paying attention, you're just not paying attention. You don't focus on it. And maybe the odd thing is that we should do American Idol or Dancing with the Stars have to take place in one of these African villages. If you want to get your entertainment thing, then you have to look at some of these other problems that are going on. Maybe we should just move the celebrities over into places that need thought.
Well, you know, in the United Kingdom, we have had for many years a fantastic program called it's organization, excuse me. We call it Red Nose Day over there, right?
Comic Relief.
Comic Relief. And ostensibly that's what Comic Relief just did exactly what you've suggested. They sort of said, look, you know, people need to be interested in these things to make the world a better place. And they're interested in celebrity. So let's take the celebrities. I hate the word, but let's take them and let's put them into, let's have them encounter a situation, whether it be malaria, whether it be water issues, whatever the issue would be. Take them into the village, face to face, meet the people, see what's going on. And then Comic Relief will create a project that can help with that situation. And the film clips that they make from those situations are played into everybody's living room. And on a Red Nose Day, everybody's watching it. Everybody gets involved with it. Schools, businesses, you name it, shops, brands, everybody gets involved with comic relief. And I agree with you. I think that is one way to do it, to harness the interest of a nation to show them, look, we can do something that is really effective, and we'll do it like this.
Yeah. One thing, too, I've noticed about corporations, because I used to kind of be anti-corporate, and after a while you're just banging up against it. You're not going to beat it. But they will react if they think that's what people want.
Absolutely.
A corporation will do whatever you want them to do if they can make money out of it.
Correct.
And probably we should get to a point of saying, all right, if this is the system that we live in, this is what would make me buy your product.
Well, you see, then that would be a sort of corporate capitalism with a social conscious input into action, which is ultimately probably what could work. We've looked at all political systems and structures and business systems and structures, and none of them work really. They work to certain people's benefit.
Right.
But actually they don't really work, because there are billions of people that are just left in the hole of desperate poverty. That's not right.
No.
That's not right.
The interesting thing, though, is even if you keep it top of mind, you still end up back into your own life. You know what I mean? Like I'm living here in New York City, and I could hear half the people in the world don't have water or access to healthcare. And I'm like, oh, that's amazingly awful. We need to do something. But by the end of the day, I'm still complaining about not catching a taxi or a subway. It's very hard to keep it conscious.
Well, to be honest with you, I'll just put it to you like this. I understand what you're saying very well. And for many, many years, I also had that huge frustration and felt frustrated by my own frustration.
Right.
It kind of creates a sense of ongoing impotence. But even if you were to just say to yourself, that one cup of coffee that I have on a Thursday, I'll take the $1.50, whatever it costs you, and I'm going to commit it to an investment in social change. And I'm going to back an organization that I really trust and I know is doing great things, whether it be in Haiti now, where you have a desperate situation with these poor people that have had to face this terrible earthquake, and now they're facing a cholera epidemic. Oh my goodness. Instead of feeling like overwhelmed by that, just say, that cup of coffee that I was going to have on the Thursday is going to support Médecins Sans Frontières. And that's my investment. And then you can feel good about yourself, and you can think, yeah, actually, it's not just hopeless. I'm helping them do that. And in that way, you turn it from being a paternalistic charitable thing where, I guess I'll take this money and kind of put it there, to saying, you know what? I want to see that change. I want to be part of it. And I'm telling you this because I've spoken to many organizations, and the feedback that I get from them is, yes, the Bill Gates of the world who have billions to give away, fantastic. Don't compare yourself to him. He's doing it in his way. He's a billionaire. Great. You do it in your own way, and it's very relative. The little old lady, that gives the regular 50 cents. Is so important. That's the consistent backbone of all those incredible NGOs that are out there on the coalface making the changes.
When did this dawn on you? Is this something that you learned over your life, or did you have this before you got into music, or it was from traveling the world?
I have always just naturally been a person with a heightened consciousness, in the sense that, or conscience and sensitivity and empathy, I guess, even when I was a kid. And I always was overwhelmed by the injustice in the world. As a young child, I would see footage of the First World War, Second World War, or I would see footage of famine, just the things that you get to see through documentary film clips. I adore documentary. I find it so educational. I want to know about the world. I don't want to live in ignorance. I want to go outside my own comfort zone and see how other people live. And then you can say, my God, I've got the clean running water coming out of my tap. I didn't realize what a luxury that was.
Right.
I didn't realize how resourceful I am here. I've got the vote. I've got freedom of speech. This is incredible, So just to say, my background is, my family were very kind of politically conscious. And so I was brought up with this this discussion about justice and injustice. And I always had that sensibility. But it took me a while to be into the position I'm in now. I'm a middle-aged woman. I've got two almost adult daughters. And I think that women of my age are an incredibly resourceful power. you know, because we've done so much and we're sometimes like, oh, hey, what do we do now? I think it's now the time for women like myself, particularly, to support women in other countries or even in your own country.
Right.
Just do something, you know.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is I just think what you're saying that is any of the benefits I have gotten were from luck or other people's work. Born into America, you born into, you know, Great
Circumstance.
Britain. Yeah, it's circumstances. It's just the luck of the draw. But then if you could look back, you look at people who worked. A lot of women, younger girls that you just say have turned their back on feminism and that's something that happened before. It's because they've already had the opportunity
Yes.
to take advantage of these giant
Yes.
leaps of people who put their shoulder down and worked for it.
Exactly. And they have no value of it because they haven't had to make an effort. They haven't seen the effort that entailed to get there. So they have something like a vote and it doesn't mean much to them.
Right.
Or they have freedom of speech. They don't know what that means. I mean, I've been a member of Amnesty International for many, many years, and I've met people that had been political prisoners of conscience, or people that were just simply taken off the streets of their country, put into prison without any lawyer, without any representation, and just locked up because somebody overheard a conversation that they were having and said, that person is against our regime, and we're locking them up. And sometimes those people will just disappear and you won't know anything about them. Amnesty International works to identify the situation. It has letter writing campaigns where individuals can collectively send letters to governments that are unjustly holding people in prison. And sometimes those governments respond. They really, really do, because they don't like to be seen as the bad guy. Look
Right.
at what's been happening in Burma. The militaristic junta has tried to keep Aung San Suu Kyi, has kept her out of the public light, and the whole country has been separate from the rest of the world for so long. They can't, you know, actually the world opinion is watching Burma and has been watching them for many years. If you didn't have the campaigners all these years saying Aung San Suu Kyi, Aung San Suu Kyi, she would just have disappeared like everybody else.
So again, it comes back to that we do have power, and then we also,
Yes.
as individuals, have responsibility to just pay attention, whether we're pushing along governments or major corporations, because they need our backing.
All of us.
Yeah.
Listen, if we didn't buy the magazines, the newspapers, the shampoos, whatever,
Yeah.
they'd be all out of business. We make them happen.
Right. And then the interesting thing, I brought this up with radio before because I grew up in radio. But if you had a radio station and you just blew a whistle into the microphone and they found out that the numbers were there, then 3 months from now there would be 3 radio stations just blowing whatever it takes. They just want your business.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit as I let you go here about Universal Child. That's the original song on this.
Yes, I hadn't intended to write a song for the album. I was really thinking I wanted to go back into my childhood and just explore the songs that I'd sung all these years ago. All these songs are the ones I sang. They're not just taken off of a list of, you know, random, here we are, an arbitrary choice. Oh, that'll go down well. You know, it's actually something I've got a personal relationship with. And then one day when I was recording in the studio, I had this title running through my head, Universal Child, and it somehow resonated very strongly with me about the universality of all of us, that we've all been born into this world naked, of a mother, you know, and that some of us, as you just said a minute ago, circumstantial.
Right.
You happen to be born here or you happen to be born there, and by just like the randomness of your birthplace and your family and your situation, you could be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you know, or you could just be in the pit of poverty. And so, I think that all of us human beings, the whole of humanity, if we could recognize the preciousness of a life, just a life, one life. Look at the miners that came out of the hole in the ground in Chile. And we were all ecstatic. 33 lives were saved. The whole world was celebrating, rightly so. We need to put that value back into human life. And so Universal Child is about that. It's about the preciousness and the sort of sacredness, if you like, without the religious overtones, of the divinity, if you like, of human life. All of us.
Thank you so much for coming in, Annie, and congratulations.
Mother Christmas was here.
Mother Christmas was here, and you are a force of nature. It really, I imagine for the people with you, it's exhausting. Just
Is it exhausting?
Is it
People
exhausting?
with me?
They're just like,
no.
oh. And
They're saying no.
It's the time change that's exhausting.
It's the time differences.
It is wonderful to have you here. Congratulations. The new album is Christmas Cornucopia, and we'll go out with Universal Child. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
Welcome back to A Very Bennington Christmas. We just heard from Annie Lennox, which is so phenomenal, but I'm so excited for this next piece that we're going to play, which is you introducing Annie Lennox to Ronnie Spector, which I think is so wild because those are two incredibly talented, amazing women, but so different.
Well, they were so excited to meet each other, and most of the meeting took place off mic. And I remember that they were just jumping around in here. And I remember looking around at my staff, and at that time they were all green, so no one went over to mic them. They just stood and watched. If this would happen today, crack staff, everybody moving, making this thing blow up even bigger. But I loved it because A, I love Ronnie Spector, and B, it became apparent to me that Ronnie Spector does not know how loved she is all the time in the music industry. Ronnie Spector was kept locked away from the world for many, many years by the evil Phil Spector, the anti-Christmas. Genius, but not the nicest man in the world, and was completely jealous that his wife was so beloved, and she was. Whether it was the Stones, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Eddie Money. I mean, if you just go along to the people that love her, wanted to work with her, Be My Baby was written for her, right? So the Beach Boys wrote some like a response to that, and wanted to give her that song. Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it breaks my heart to think that she doesn't, or that she's not always aware how important she is to people, because her voice and everything that she was,
Attitude,
her style, yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
She was and is a remarkable human being.
Icon.
Yeah.
Well, when Annie Lennox came back here, the amazing thing is that if you listen to that, and for me it was like a Christmas miracle, where that both of them were so happy that the other person knew who they were and dug their music. They were both blown away by that fact. And just to be sitting in here for that was just absolutely terrific. We bring this up all week during the best of, is that we get to do a lot of cool stuff. And I don't know, some people feel like doing cool stuff is that you did it yourself. But for me, many times just being in the room when something cool is happening is amazing. And I'll never forget that moment of Ronnie Spector feeling that happy that Annie Lennox came back to see her. It was just fantastic. This is the Bennington Show. The absolute queen of rock and roll is here with us today, Ronnie Spector. How are you doing, darling?
I'm doing fine, Ron. How are you?
It is so great to see you again.
You too. I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah, it's been a while. And now you, like every year at Christmas, you come out and you say, it's my time again.
And it is. I feel it so much every year that if I'm not doing my Christmas songs and my Christmas shows, it's like nothing. My life is dead. I love Christmas.
What is it about you and Christmas?
It started when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And my mother was a waitress, and she got off work, and I begged her to take me to Macy's to sit on Santa's lap.
Right.
And her feet were killing her. But she didn't mind. She took me to see Santa. And what was amazing about it, it was this long line of kids and their parents. And I couldn't even see his head. But the closer I got, I saw the the red hat, then I saw the ball, and then I saw the white coming around his hat, and I never forget, my heart was beating so fast. I had to sit on Santa's lap, and I finally got a chance to sit on his lap. And I think at that age, that turned me towards Christmas every year.
That was it.
Yeah. And then when I started making the Christmas records, Sleigh Ride and Frosty and I Saw Mommy, that was my dream.
Yeah. And where are you doing your Christmas shows this year? Have you picked out yet?
We've had a band rehearsal and everything. Of course, I'm doing Sleigh Ride and Frosty and I Saw Mommy.
Yeah.
But I'm also doing I have a new EP out, and it's all Christmas songs. Because I said, I'm getting tired of singing just these three.
Right.
And my audience likes me to do more Christmas stuff. So I listen to my audience. My fans and my audience. Right. And they said, you got to have more Christmas stuff out. So this past summer, and it was like 95 degrees in Philadelphia, with Bobby Eli. He did this Shy Light, all the groups from 85 on up in Philadelphia. So I said, I want to go to his studio. I don't want him to come to Connecticut or New York.
Right.
We went to his studio. I knocked A Christmas Wish was my favorite one.
Yeah.
And I did that one. Then I did a song, Light One Candle, which sort of reminded me of my kids because they're half Jewish. So when every Hanukkah, my kids would go to their grandparents and light the candles. So when I heard Light One Candle, I said, I want that song. Because they send you like 50 songs, but I don't do that part. My manager, he takes out, she's not going to like that. She's not going to want to sing that.
Right.
So he narrows it down for me, then he brings it home, and then I pick.
So your kids were raised where they had Christmas and they would have Hanukkah.
Right.
And that was fine with you. There's somebody there's somebody that would love to meet you. I wonder, this is Annie Lennox, one of the greatest singers of all time.
Annie, it's just like I know you. Fabulous. I love your short hair and everything. Annie Lennox, I gotta take a picture.
Yeah, of course you can take a picture. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
I'm like, Annie Lennox. Let me get my hair right.
Your hair's fabulous. Your hair is fabulous. Oh. What a lovely, lovely thing.
We had that as a surprise for you, Ronnie, because,
I'm so happy. It's the best surprise.
Yeah.
Now I can enjoy the whole Christmas. Thank you, Annie. I love you. You're the best.
It's just unbelievable.
I can't believe it.
Thank you so much, Annie. That meant the word.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
Baby.
And
I love you to death. I do.
It's just
Annie Lennox is here. I'm like in shock.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie, she said, I told her, I did an interview with her, and I said, I'm going to be having Ronnie Spector, and immediately she was like, oh my God. And
Annie, I love you, girl. You are too much. I've seen you so much my whole life. TV, records, everything.
too.
Well, you and me both. Us. I love you.
Now I do believe it's Christmas. Now I believe.
Ron.
Yeah. Now I have this Christmas miracle. That's so wonderful.
So great. Let me get back to this interview before you runs me out. I love you, Annie.
I love you too.
And I'm going to talk about you.
It's my Christmas
Yeah.
present.
Thank you.
She's got a Christmas EP too, so she'll let you.
She did one as well.
Yeah, she does one. She does a little Christmas show here in New York every year, and
Annie, I can't
to
believe
have the
I'm
both
having
of you guys doing this is amazing
I have
to
one
me.
for you, too.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
New Christmas.
Yes,
Christmas tree.
it's the Christmas spirit. It's all come real.
Isn't it real? I'm like
Oh.
goosebumps.
And
Annie gave me goosebumps.
But Ronnie, I am so glad that you could see how people feel about you. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I want you to sign yours, and I'll sign yours.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. I got all the time in the world.
Elvis Costello was up here last time. I never met him. Never met you. I said, Ronnie, take a picture with me. I said, you're who? I would know you anywhere. You look so great. And you look the same all the time.
Oh, well.
That's good, honey.
Don't look too closely, my love.
Yeah.
That's why you think
Looks
I have my face. I don't wear eye makeup anymore, so until I do it.
Ronnie Spector and Annie Lennox. This is like a rock and roll dream. It's a rock and roll dream.
I
Yeah.
love this. I can't believe I'm meeting Annie Lennox. This is my dream. Now I can go home
I
in
can't
peace.
believe I'm meeting.
I know, and you know, I said this to you too, Annie. I said I don't think Ronnie Spector ever realizes how beloved she is.
I think that's what's good. I don't.
Yeah.
No, you know
I go
what?
back to Connecticut with my little boys.
But I think that's the point, is people have assumptions that anybody famous has got this huge persona, it's kind of not really human.
Right.
And actually, we're human beings.
They
Right.
put us up
They
on
were
a
just-
pedestal.
yeah,
and I think
you-
if we just realize we're just human just like everybody else.
Of course. And
We
that's
love
the point.
Christmas and
Yeah, we love
Hanukkah.
But when I think of women singing rock and roll, it always starts with Ronnie Spector. I mean, to me,
God.
that is it.
Yeah.
Annie, you gotta
Wow.
sign it.
This is so timely.
Yeah.
Oh, put it away.
You gotta sign
You
this.
see,
Annie, put that.
What is that? I mean, the thing is that musicians really do love
Annie,
Right.
love our
A-N-N-I-E.
music, you know.
Annie,
So
A-N-N-I-E.
that's the one.
Yeah.
That's me.
That is
And
so
you
sweet.
know, that's the thing about the power of music, because we don't always meet each other.
Right.
But
That's
the
right.
music that we've listened to over the years.
And if we
has
see a
been part
person,
of
it's
our
like we know them
lives.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we're human beings. Some people are really very egocentric, and they believe in that kind of projection that they put out there.
Right.
But there are other musicians that we're just human beings, and we just
And
do
we
our
love
thing.
life,
That's
and
what
we love
want.
our songs.
Right.
You know, so
We
for
love
me to
rock
be
and roll,
Ronnie,
Annie.
It's like the music.
Yeah,
the music.
it is the music, and of course, just how many people and so many male singers that she had impact on. I mean, when I see Mick Jagger, I'm always thinking
Keith
Ronnie.
Richards is my God.
Well, I know
If
that.
I had married Keith, I would have had a great career, and our kids would have had great hair.
Yeah,
But both of us had this black, thick hair.
but I always thought that Mick started to kind of look and dance like you after meeting you.
He was, you know where he took that from?
Yeah.
I took them to the Apollo Theater.
Right.
Keith and Mick Jagger. And when they saw James Brown, he went nuts.
Right.
And so he kept that dance.
Yeah.
You know, and he couldn't dance like that. Brown, but he tried. And I took him to the Apollo. We had just headlined there. So they said, we got to go. And this is before they were stars, guys.
Right.
This is before, they had no money. They stayed in my house on the floor. Good thing I had carpet. But, you know, I love Keith and Mick, but Keith's my favorite.
Oh, sure.
He was a rugged. How could I care? I don't want to talk.
He's
Yeah.
rugged.
I know.
Yeah.
I just thought
And he's
him.
got a book just recently. You've got
Ronnie's
I
in
know,
the
and I'm in
book.
the book all the way through it.
Yeah.
And he sent me the book and he said, Ronnie, it's, how did he put it? It's a love affair we've had for 40 years.
Wow.
And it's true.
That's
He
beautiful.
lives 15 minutes from me. So I go down his basement. He has it all hooked up for recording, and I made a record. And it's called, the one what I just said. I get so nervous, Annie, standing there.
One of the newer ones that you're doing off your Christmas?
No,
Yeah.
it's the one we wrote. He wrote the first half, and I have to write the second half.
Oh.
What's
you're
it called?
You're doing it now? You're recording it now?
It's a duet you guys did called Love Affair.
Love Affair.
It's a love affair, just
Yeah.
like us.
Exactly.
Just like me and him, so I'm so happy.
Oh,
And he's so
fantastic.
happy.
Oh.
So, yeah, he won't go on TV. I said, I'll take your place and talk about you. The View wants him, Joy Behar, they all talk about the new book. I said, well, I'm in it. Don't I count, you know, for something? So, we'll see what's going to happen. My publicists are so great, so maybe I'll be on all the TV shows. I know I'm doing Letterman.
You never know. You never know.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm doing Letterman on
You
the
keep
15th.
your options open in life.
That's right,
Right?
girl. I had
Right,
to.
right.
You know where I came
have
from,
to.
Spanish Harlem.
Sure.
I had to keep everything intact. Get down to the Brooklyn Fox. We weren't even stars yet at the Brooklyn Fox.
Sure.
We were Murray the K's dancing girls. And then we met Phil Spector. He auditioned us. And he said, he knocked the piano over. He said, that's the voice I've been looking for. So,
Come on.
from Be My Baby on up to the Christmas songs. Then I had to get out of here. Then I had to go.
It is Goosebumps. Isn't it Goosebumps just
It's
talking with her? Yeah.
Look at me.
Today. We're all goosebumpy.
Feel me. Now you have? Okay.
Yes.
Where's the one I have of you?
We all,
I must let you get
we've
on
all
with
got it.
I have, and
I
you
know.
have. And now I must let you get on.
I can't have you here with me.
thank you so much for stopping by and surprising her.
You are the best.
Anthony
Yeah.
Lennox. I can't wait to tell my boys.
That's so
Wait
sweet.
till I tell my girls.
Oh, you have girls?
I have two.
I have.
You
3 adopted and 2 from here. So I've got 5.
Yeah. Have a wonderful
Thank you so much.
Whatever you're doing.
I can't believe I'm seeing you. This is wonderful. And he can let you know what I'm doing, and somebody can let me know what you're doing.
Yes.
I can see your show. I want to see your show.
Well, I'm lighting the Christmas tree tomorrow.
Where are you doing that?
Yeah, here in New York.
Oh, wow, it's
Not at
fantastic.
the Radio City, that one.
City.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to come.
Well, you can if you want to.
Andy will fix it up. This is
we'll
my
fix it up.
publicist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Andy Silva, and I will
join
come
us.
and
We'll
see
make it
you.
festive.
Sure.
Oh, God. Are you serious, Andy?
Of course I'm serious.
This is,
I love you. Are you recording us?
yes, this is all being recorded, darling. This is all for you.
I didn't know you were recording us. Then Ron, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah,
Not you, Fez.
We're exchanging addresses now.
Yeah.
Right, but
Take
you're not
all the
getting to
time
know
that
what
you
they
need.
are.
That's right. And you won't know the addresses or our phone numbers. All right.
Hi, hon.
I love you.
I love you too.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Annie. I appreciate it, darling. Yeah.
Oh, it
This-
is. Okay, thank you.
This is like a rock and roll dream. Ronnie Spector and Annie Lennox together. That's just amazing.
Oh,
to me.
I'm
I am
freaking
so
out.
happy that you realized that, because it was just a little while ago, and I told her I was going to be with you, and she goes, "Oh, I would love to meet her." I said, "You should stop by." She goes, "Oh, I would never want to." I go,
Never.
Ronnie would love it.
I would love it, and I loved it. It's so great. You know, I was here last week, and they were in that little room talking because I wasn't ready to. Cousin Bruce, he hadn't gotten here yet.
Right.
I come out in the hallway, and there's Elvis Costello. Ronnie Spector, get the camera, guys. So I really don't know how much people.
Yeah.
And I like not knowing, because when I walk out on the stage and I hear that applause, and that's when I get crazy, and I love it.
But there is so much that's happened with rock and roll, and you brought up the thing with the Rolling Stones and the way Keith feels about you. And I always saw Mick Jagger. Seriously, I saw.
No, my sister
style.
dated Mick Jagger.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But there's so much stuff to all this music together. And you know, when people think about, here's Annie Lennox, she grows up on the other side of the world.
Isn't that something?
There should be no reason that this moment would happen, and yet it does.
I'm in shock.
You know,
I'm still have the goosebumps here.
Yeah.
I just can't get over that Annie Lennox even knows me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happened when I first came back from California. Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, all these people said, "Ronnie, do you know how much you've influenced us?" And then Bruce Springsteen would say, "Where do you think I got my
Right.
I said, "What?" I was so shocked that people were listening to my voice, you know, and the production,
Right.
you know, but it was my voice and the production that made everything.
well, it was your voice, it was production,
Arrangements by Jack Nitzsche, too.
Yeah,
People shouldn't forget that.
who, as you know,
He
is a
did
genius,
everything.
a
Yes.
genius. But all that stuff comes together, and then your look, which is to me rock and roll.
Yeah,
you
I
look
love
like rock and roll. The way you danced, the way you moved, it's perfect.
Right, you're
And-
making me a blush.
And that's why I wanted you to have that experience of Annie, because when she said, "Oh no," right away when I told her I was going to be interviewing you, she starts to like bow down like she's in front of the queen.
She did that to me.
Yeah.
I'm saying, I don't do that. Because
Yeah.
I don't think of me like that.
And that's what I said. I go, Ronnie does not know this. She does not know.
And don't care.
It's just part
It's
of what
just-
happens.
You know what it is too? It's like I hadn't seen Keith Richards in like 25 years.
Right.
And when we met in the studio, because he came to do my last of the rock stars, it was like we saw each other yesterday. You know, and he
Right.
said, "Ronnie, I was looking for you." I said, "Well, why didn't you try? Why didn't you find me?" He said, no one could find you. And they were right, because I was in the mansion and never able to go out. So
was that was just a period of your life that the world kind of just passed you by, huh?
that passed me by. No, I thought no one knew of me. And of course, when I was married to Phil Spector, he never mentioned me. He never played records in the house. Everything was opera and stuff. So of course, I didn't think of rock and roll.
Right.
But that was all in the back of my mind. I've got to get on that stage. Because I love going into the recording studio, because the recording studio makes you come out to the public.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Frank Sinatra, all those people in the, you know, from the 40s, they had to be on a record first, and then people came out, the Bobby Soxers in those days. Because my in-laws tell me about that. So it's like, I'm like that, and you don't think like that, and I can't. I'd rather think I'm just like you, right, or Fez, or Annie.
It's just the work that you do, but what's really wild is that you just don't realize that even this work still carries on, that those records mean stuff to people, those concerts mean stuff to people.
It's amazing. I do this show, a one-woman show. It's called Beyond the Beehive. Mm-hmm. And the people in the audience, I notice they're crying, they're laughing, because I'm very spontaneous on stage. I never have things on my mind, what I'm going to say when I get out there. Everything is at the moment when I get out there. So to see people, how they go crazy over me, it does shock me. You know, the first two songs, I'm like, inside, I'm like, my heart is beating so fast.
Yeah.
And then I see after two songs how much they applaud me. They like me. And, you know, it's like, you really like me? I haven't been around for years and years. But I think what happened when I wasn't around, that made people think of me more.
Right.
So when I came back, it was, my shows were packed, and I'm saying to Springsteen, and I used to go out with Miami Steve, love that guy. He said, Ronnie, you don't know who you are because you were in California for so long. You don't know how great you are and what your records meant.
It's so funny that you call Miami Steve, because I haven't. That was the Springsteen name, of course, for Steve Van Zandt. And they call him Little Steven now.
Baby Steve. He had every name.
But it is amazing that here's all these talented musicians. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to that certain period where you and your friends were singing that music, making that music, and it's still coming back to you after all these years.
Yeah, and that's what shocks me, Ron, is that people are like, my shows are sold out.
Right.
And I'm saying, my shows? You know, I don't even have a hit record, but, you know, my records in the past, including Be My Baby, Walking in the Rain, they meant so much to people. It's like Brian Wilson said to me like a week ago, he said, Ronnie, do you know I play Be My Baby 100 times a day?
He does. He considers that the greatest rock and roll song ever.
Brian, don't you realize that's 40 years ago?
Yeah.
He said, I don't care. I play it every day now. So I'm so happy that people still think about me, still play my records. And when I go into the grocery store, I hear my records, Do I Love You, the other day as I'm walking in the door. You know, so I hear all my records, and that alone, because one of my sons works at ShopRite. Mm-hmm. So when I go, Mom, when he comes home, I don't go there every day. Mom, they had Do I Love You, they had Walking in the Rain. I said, you're my little reporter. You know, he comes home and tells me all the news, so it's wonderful.
When you look back, and like you said, on the time that you stayed in the mansion and you didn't come outside and you didn't know what was, you know, that the way people felt about you. Do you regret that, or is that just part of life? That's just one of the things that happens?
I don't regret it because it was part of the process. Mm-hmm. And I had to trust the process, you know, and I trusted myself. I trusted my mother, and I trusted, because I loved the stage since I was like 5 years old. I had this huge family, 7 uncles and 6 aunts, and I had 23 first cousins. So every Sunday at my grandmother's house, especially Christmas time, we'd go up there, and little Ronnie would get up on the coffee table and Jambalani, it's fine if you leave a move. And I didn't know if those were the right words.
Right.
But my family applauded me. That gave me that confidence. And then to go to the Apollo Theater at amateur night at the Apollo Theater, I said, we're not going to make it, girls. We look too white, you know, and we did. So we got in there, and I had my little cousin Ira, which looked, you know, more like a Frankie Lyman, sort of dark. So he got out there, and nothing came out of his mouth. I grabbed the mic, and I was singing Frankie Lyman's Why Do Fools Fall? Why Do Birds? And they went crazy over me. And that's when I knew I could make it anywhere in the world.
Well, that is true, because that theater, the Apollo Theater in Harlem, will tell you exactly whether they love you or they hate you.
You know what? We had a cousin that was working there, He came up to us backstage because you have to go down because it's like down in the basement, all the amateurs. And he said, girls, just remember, if they don't like you, they will throw shoes, they will throw eggs. He scared me half to death before I even got on stage. But something about scaring me made me good.
Right.
You know, it pumped up my energy, and I went out there and that crowd loved me. And I said, if the Apollo loves me, I can be loved all over the world.
Sure.
And we were.
Yeah, you guys, I think, were some of the first American acts to go over to England.
We were,
right?
yes. We were the opening act. Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, and the Yardbirds, all those guys went on before us. We were the headliners.
Wow.
And the same thing in Germany. We had guys having orgasms in the mess hall and stuff. They would get on the floor and I said, what are they doing? You know, I didn't know what all that was. So we had, when I was with the Ronettes, I must tell you though, Ron, we had the greatest times, you know, at the Brooklyn Fox and all those places, and just being in Long Island, Bronx, Brooklyn, of course.
Right.
That made me a star because we were born in Manhattan. But when I got to Brooklyn with Murray Decay, his Dancing Girls, that's when I became a star.
Did you feel like just crossing over into the other borough was as exciting as everything else that you've ever done? Is that something?
Because Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, all those are like home.
Right.
You know, so we had to take a subway to the Brooklyn Fox. We had nothing. You know, no money. I couldn't even, my mother and father couldn't even send me to piano lessons or send me to singing school. And so I had to take Frankie Lyman's records, the Schoolboys records, Frankie Valli. I take their records when I come home from school. And I had this one with 45 and a little, you know, a little photograph there. And that's when I learned all my songs, and that's how I learned how to sing. The Frankie Lyman, Frankie Valli, all those, the Schoolboys, Please Say You Want Me.
It's almost like it wasn't up to you, like it just happened, like you had to do it.
It was like fated to be.
Yeah.
I had to be on that stage, and it started when I was like 5 or 6 years old with my family. And when they applauded me, I said, and my mother always told me though, and my father, they both would say, Ronnie, you have to get your education, then your career, and then you can get married and have babies. So when I met Phil, I thought, this couldn't be perfect, because I loved him, I really did.
Yeah.
This is so perfect. He's my producer, my writer, and he had told me, he said, Ronnie, I'm not letting you go on the Beatles tour, their first tour in America. And I said, why? And he said, I have a better song for you, better than I Want to Hold Your Hand. And I got back to California and Gold Star. I never did another record. I did one song by Tony Wine, You Came, You Saw, You Conquered. And that was it.
So he actually...
Oh, and I went to England because the Beatles said, you have to come to England. And George Harrison produced me and made Try Some, Buy Some, which was so great. And I see a guy, and it was nobody at Apple Records. And Apple Records is huge with those high ceilings. I walk in, and I see this guy with his hair pulled to the side, and he's playing the piano. And I'm saying, who's that? And, of course, my ex-husband was there, too. And he said, just walk a little closer. And it was George Harrison.
Wow.
Sitting at the piano with his hair all over his face. I didn't know who he was. And he looked up at me, Ronnie! Because I'd known those guys before they became the Beatles. Just like the Rolling Stones. It was the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and me.
And, you know, these stories that you had, Keith just wrote his book that, you know, you ended up in. Do you think to yourself, I want to get some of these stories down, I want to put them out there? No, for you?
No. I'm reading the book now, but it was funny because I'm reading this part. He's talking about him and me, I thought. Ronnie and I, and then we started laughing, and I was telling her jokes, or him jokes. And then as I read, he was talking about Ronnie Wood, because he said, let's go in the bathroom and do some dope, you know. And I'm reading, I said, I never did drugs, you know. So I had to call Keith, and he said, of course I didn't mean you, Ronnie. It's Ronnie Wood. And I did read it in the book. So I love Keith. He has the greatest kind of... He's so down to earth. People don't know that, too. It's like how I am.
Right.
He's so down to earth. He has people, like, in his band that actually live in his house, and he feeds them and everything.
Right.
A lot of them are from England. And they recorded me right there in Keith's house.
And, of course, so many people that you met. Jimi Hendrix you met at a very
I
early
used to
time.
sing with Jimi Hendrix on 59th Street. It was this place called Ondine's. It was a little club. Bob Dylan used to come in, and I would get up, and Jimi Hendrix was the house band. And Jimmy said, come here, Ronnie. And I get up there and we tear up the place. They loved us.
Wow. What year do you remember? What
this was like 62, 60, early 63, just before I met Phil.
So this is before you even become a star, but years before Jimi Hendrix became a star. It'd be like 5 or 6 years before.
Well, see, Jimmy, when I met him the last time, of course, he was a superstar. And I went over to his house because my sister was there. She said, you got to come over. Jimmy's dying to see you again. So I go over there, and Jimmy has about 3 girls on each side of him, and he's in the middle, and the bed is on the floor. So I go and I said, I can't believe this. So I leave because I'm married to Phil at that time.
At that point, there's so many of those kind of stories, though. And you never think to yourself, I want to write them down. I want to record these for history. You seem to be the person that the stories are about. But did you ever want to tell it from your point of view?
Oh, I wrote a book like 20 years ago. Yeah. Which was the top 10, in the Times and all. And then, if you don't have a record, see, a record means everything to me. You have to have a hit record in rock and roll. That's when the people come out. So if you're in the studio, the next place you're going to be is out there with the audience. And when I met Phil Spector, that's when I knew I could make it everywhere. England, Germany, France.
There was just something that you guys hooked up with musically. That there was a moment there.
Yeah, and I always sang the lead on all the songs. Yeah. And the other 2 Ronettes were on maybe 3 or 4 of the songs.
Right.
And they were very upset, but...
Sometimes you would just move in different backup singers, whatever.
Yes, well, we always had Sonny and Cher, because Sonny worked for Phil, and Cher was always his girlfriend, so she was always there. And the Blossoms... We had all these people singing background for me. Right. But I couldn't be in the studio. I could only be with Cher. So Cher and I would go to Sonny's first wife's house, because he had a 3-year-old daughter, not Chaz, a 3-year-old daughter before he even met Cher. Right. So Cher and I, when they were in there mixing records and stuff, Sonny and Phil, Cher and I would get in a little red MG and go to his ex-wife's house and give her money, food, clothing, stuff like that. So I became very close with Cher. Very close.
These stories are just incredible. Ronnie Spector, the new Christmas EP is out, and you can get that off.
And you know what else, Ron?
Yeah.
This is going to be the best Christmas ever. I didn't put that in the title for no reason.
Right.
Best it really is.
Christmas ever. And it's already starting with Annie Lennox coming in here.
I know Annie is like, I'm like still shaking.
Isn't that the sweetest thing ever?
I thought she was here with you or interview.
No, she was here. She was here earlier, and I said, "Make sure you come back." And she was like, "Oh, Ronnie wouldn't like that." I thought that you would.
Of course, I'm always like you know me, Ron. By now,
I do know you. I
love people, and I love people in the business, and then they know me. That kind of throws me back, especially her.
I want you to pay attention to that, because I hear it time and time again.
I do too, and it like scares me a little.
Yeah,
because I don't understand, where do you know me from? Even little kids, like 10 and 11 be my baby and stuff.
Absolutely. Ronnie Spector, the best Christmas ever. Thank you so much, darling.
Thank you, Ron.
It's Christmas time, and this is the Bennington Show. Happy Christmas to you, Gail.
Happy Christmas to you.
You been enjoying this best of week that we're doing?
I have been enjoying it. Taking time, looking back at everything that we've done this year. It's a good feeling.
We don't like to plug much on here, but we could have said that you can go to the Interrobang all week and figure out what was your favorite in the year in comedy. There's so many great articles and pieces in there for this year, and we'll get to it next week. There's no sense in talking about it this week. I wanted to take a week off from that. And then next week, we'll be doing more best ofs that we host or curate, if you will.
Yes.
Someone said to me, curate is going to be the popular word for next year. I go, I've been using it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Where's that been?
How's it just now going to be a popular word?
Yeah. How could that happen? Man, we had Danny Aiello, Annie Lennox, Ronnie Spector. And now coming up, probably one of the most famous songwriters, performers of all time, Paul Anka, who had just done a Christmas album. Paul Anka, of course, he wrote many songs, but 2 of the famous would be My Way by Frank Sinatra. And then this is another bizarre thing, and not everybody knows this. He wrote the Tonight Show theme.
Really?
He wrote da 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 da. I don't know why. If you gave me a million years, I couldn't come up with that snappy little jingle. Everybody
It's
would
so
like.
snappy and so memorable. I had no idea that was him.
Well, that's why you like to hang out here. You get to find out all this stuff.
I found out everything good. But he also did put your head on my shoulder. That was him.
Yeah, all
that
those
song
50s
is
songs.
so great.
Well, this is my point about this. He wrote those kind of 50 songs that were so much of his time, but that's not the only way that he can write and perform. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's basically a guy that can go into many, many different directions. And he's got a Christmas album out, as they do. So we wanted to keep this as all Christmas today. This is the Bennington Show, and once again, happy Christmas to you.
To you as well.
Chris, happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas to you.
Yeah. And to you and yours, I like to say.
Oh, thank you.
Give that to yours. You know?
Yes. Don't just hoard it yourself. Make sure you.
I like hoarding, though. I get to take all of it.
But, you know, you're a family that you go to for stuff is Jewish, so I guess they downplay Christmas.
Yeah, my girlfriend likes Christmas, though, but like her family is just like, whatever. It's this goy thing.
Yeah. Goy meets girl is what they call you.
No.
I would like to do a thing. I wish there was a picture of me meeting Milton Berle and it said Goy meets Berle. And that would be my favorite thing. Happy Christmas. Here's Paul Anka. That is Songs of December from the one and only Paul Anka. Paul Anka in studio with us. How are you, sir?
Hey, my man. How you doing?
It's good to see you. A Christmas album. Christmas songs. Why these songs on this album? Why did you pick these?
Well, there's certainly a wide variety. The reason for these is for the concept of the album. I wanted to do an album that had one vibe through it. I didn't want to do the traditional brass and bells and whistles and choirs and stuff that you're hearing. And out of the process, I came up with these because they're familiar. Songs that I knew, but songs that I could bend around and put them within the concept of very lush, very romantic, within the concept of, yeah, it's Christmas, but it ain't happy for everybody.
Right.
And I took these songs and reinvented them, not like I did with Rock Swings, but I tried to find ones that I could personalize and apply the kind of string approach, the romantic approach that I have on there. Certainly there were other ones, but I wound up with these. The stretch ones for me were like Blue Christmas, which was very tied to Elvis. But I wanted to really come up with something very different on that because I liked Elvis's record. And all the songs on there I like a lot. Let It Snow. My friend Sammy Kahn wrote that years ago. Mel Torme, who was a friend, the Christmas song. So there's a personalized approach to all of them that had to fit the infrastructure of where I wanted to take this in terms of the vibe of the record.
There's so many great songs on here. And you being a songwriter, when you sing their songs, do you end up thinking about the songwriter? When you're doing a song, do you think about that person who first put it down on paper?
Not necessarily. I let the song really be the criteria. Having a knowledge of the business and growing up with it and knowing writers, because I'm a writer, I'm aware of who wrote it, but it really doesn't come into the picture when I'm doing it, other than the respect I have for those that have structured the song. So if I see something by Sammy Kahn or by Mel or these other great writers, I know that I'm dealing with a great piece of material that's pliable in a sense and that can be done anyway.
But you just take on the song as if it was yours, right, from the beginning?
I try to make it mine, like I did with Rock Swings. I try to sing it and approach it as if I wrote it and keep the integrity of where I keep it within my style, yes.
So were you performing as a kid before you started writing songs, or did that kind of go hand in hand?
I started around 12 or 13 years old. I was a big fan of music. So I was singing in a church choir. I was singing at school. I was doing performances. Imitations was a big part of my life back then. And then I started getting into music. I worked at a local newspaper. I wanted to be a writer. Then I got thrown out of shorthand, but I kept the typing. The shorthand led to piano. And I started to get a knowledge of music. So I started to become the writer, and I started just writing songs. And then when I saw this girl, Diana, who I had a crush on, a few years older than I was. In those days, that's what it was about. I wrote the song, but I just wrote it as a writer, and it was all about songwriting for me back then.
And once you wrote that song and other people connected to it, then it became this lifetime thing for you.
Yeah. The life change came. What a lot of people don't know is, being the fan that I was, I came to California to see an uncle of mine. Mm-hmm. And it was when I started to write. And I wrote a song called Blau Wild de Biesfontein. Mm-hmm. And it was a city in Africa, part of a book report I had to turn in, part of my writing course. But the record at the time was called Stranded in the Jungle by the Cadets. I was a big doo-wop guy, and I loved all of that stuff. And I loved this song. And I used to go down to Wallach's Music City and sit in one of those booths, and I'd listen to it. But then one day I bought the record, and it said Bahari Brothers Modern Records, Culver City. And it was just a few miles from where my uncle was. So I said, man, I'm going to hitchhike out there, and I'm going to go in and see these guys and play my song. So I walked in, got a ride out, and there was the Bahari family. And I said, I'm Paul Anka from Ottawa. And they looked at me like I was delivering coffee because I was in jeans and a T-shirt. I said, I got this song. So, in those days, it was like infancy stage pop music.
Yeah.
And they said, well, let me hear it, kid. So I started singing, Blau Wild de Biesfontein, where love is so splendor, and no one can remember a moonlit night and a magic night and a dreamer's holiday. They said, we're parents. I said, in Canada. And they said, well, we want to sign you. I said, you got to be kidding. So they brought in a guy named Ernie Freeman, who was a great, great arranger who later made it big time. And they said, how would you like the Cadets that sing Stranded in the Jungle to sing with you? I said, are you kidding me? They bring in the Cadets, Ernie Freeman, and there was a garage in the back, just like Motown. We went in and we cut a record, Blau Wild de Biesfontein, I Must Confess on the other side. They put it out. Maybe I sold 100 copies. I was a failure at 15. I wasn't dejected. I think there was his name, the Wolf Dog or some guy in Buffalo. One of those guys played it. Hound Dog, I think, Buffalo. Anyway, just does nothing, but I get the injection right up the arm. I got to be in this business. The next year, I leave and go to New York, and I get lucky with Diana, with Don Costa.
But I imagine at 15, just carrying that record around and seeing your name on it must have been almost enough already, right?
Hooked.
Yeah.
Hooked. Buzz.
And then when you got to New York, at that period of New York, there was so many things popping here too, right?
Well, Brill Building, doo-wop, all of that was just starting to happen. Presley had kicked in. The whole Brill Building action was happening. You had Kirshner. It was a great time, and big time doo-wop time, Philadelphia crowd. So when I hit, I'm living in a bathtub on 46th Street, I think the President Hotel, making the rounds and enjoying this environment. And walking into Costa's office at ABC, and then all of a sudden I became a part of it.
And after that point, it was like an overnight success for you because it just exploded, right?
Yeah, Diana kicked in right away. Back in those days, you cut an acetate, you go to Philly, you do American Bandstand.
Right.
You did Alan Freed, and within a week you had a hit. And that happened that quickly for me. My life just changed. That was it.
And did you think, okay, now I got to keep on writing, or did you get caught up in the fun of having a hit record?
No, I knew I had to keep writing.
Yeah.
They signed me out, gave me $100, and I had to write as much as they locked me away. It was $100 a month. You better write the next album. Back in those days, and even for a lot of rock and roll, as the transition occurred, you lived and breathed rock and roll, and I did. It was writing every day, making an album, maybe 3 or 4 a year. Whole different process back then, and you had to write and stay with it all the time.
It was just that it becomes your life, and at that point, are the songs coming faster, or are you battling them out? How does the song work?
Faster as opposed to today, or just they're coming out faster because that's all that there was. As I said, the whole industry was in its infancy stage. We all lived together. Every act I was traveling with, there was 15 of us on a bus, so we would be singing what we were writing. I knew what Buddy Holly was coming out. I knew what the Everly Brothers were doing. We'd be playing off each other. It was all about the music back then, unlike today. So you'd be banging them out and banging them out and banging them out because you had to, and because you're trying to impress your friends, and because that's what it was all about. Because we were all like in one little box. traveling together, doing certain dates, and it was that close, and that motivated you to keep showing your friends what you could do.
And then you're going out in places in the country that you have never seen before, but you're only there for
one night.
Yeah, one night, and on the road again. So after a while, I guess it's like only the people. It's like being in the circus where it seems to be more like everybody with you seems normal, but everybody on the outside is like a different tribe, so to speak. Where the audience, you don't really even get to know them that well as people.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. There was somewhat of a homogenous effect because there were the people that were fans that would show up. To get to know them, not really, even though when we'd hit a city, it was an event back then. You got to remember, we were the only traveling troupe circus, good analogy.
Yeah.
And when we got there, you'd go to their homes. You'd go to their restaurants. You got to meet them because it was all about that camaraderie and with your fans. You'd be more inclined as opposed to today to really get into it and get a sense of where you were. But by and large, we were isolated from them.
And yet it was the first kind of youth explosion, I guess. It was the first time that the young people were in charge of their own destiny in the music business. You're writing and performing your own stuff.
Yeah, you're in charge, but you're not. You're a kid and you got a bunch of adults around you. Not unlike, the whole American Idol thing, they're controlled too. But back then you had somewhat of a control, but you're still dependent on an infrastructure of business people, record people. You're working for the guys who ran Vegas and the guys who ran the record company.
Right.
And so you're kind of in that milieu of people. And, you had some autonomy and some didn't. The guys out of Philly, Frankie Avalon, the ones that I knew, it was Marcucci, and they controlled it and they called the shots and you were told what to do and there were boundaries, there were limitations. Sexuality, forget about it. You can get anybody in a hotel room, didn't exist.
Yeah.
You couldn't get near the women, you couldn't do. So you're really under the auspices of people that were controlling your career.
At what point did it start to feel like you took control? Because, you could do it all yourself. You can write, you can record, you can produce. At what point did you feel like, okay, I've got control now?
Well, probably earlier than all of my contemporaries because of the fact that I did it all and I had some business acumen. So I would say around 58, 59.
Wow.
I had a partner and I really ran the shots with him. And, 59 or 60, I bought my catalog back from the company I was with because I needed a bigger company. Gave him $250,000 and I bought my stuff back. Wound up with RCA, started a company. So I was calling the shots at a young age, wanted to get into the clubs. Sinatra and those guys were my idols. So I wound up in Vegas, the youngest kid ever to work Vegas, Copacabana. So I really made those decisions because I wanted to make the transition. I didn't really believe that I was going to last as a teenage idol. It was great, but I didn't see a future in that. So that's why I made my transitions.
And you kind of had your feet in all these different camps. I mean, to play to the kind of the teeny bopper crowd and then to play to the Vegas crowd. I don't know too many other people. I guess Bobby Darin did some of that as well. But that was just about you two that could pull that off, right?
It was only he and I. Elvis tried it in Vegas, and that didn't work the first time till, the 70s.
Yeah.
Bobby and I would, converse about that. Bobby really was more in that Sinatra vibe, and he wanted to do it, and we would talk about, each of us and how we did it. So we pursued it. We were the only two that did and were successful. I had more of an encampment in Vegas than Bobby. Bobby came a little later. I was tied in with Frank and Sammy and those guys at the Sands and played there every year since I was, 20 years old.
Yeah. What was that like to be a kid around those guys? I mean, that's just legendary.
Listen, you and I couldn't sit here for 2 years and do it. It was unbelievable. I mean, the great thing about my business is you never know what's going to happen. And, the boys ran everything. As I said, the jukeboxes, the clubs, in this kid comes. I'm with, Frank and Sammy who take to me because I'm making money for the family. And there I am in a steam room with these guys and a kid. And I'm trying to be as cool as I can. These guys are walking around nude and hanging out and girls are coming and we're eating in there till like 2 a.m. And I mean, it was like, give me more. Who do I pay for this? And this was like, I can't even tell you, for a young singer, you'll never see that life again. So I loved it. The guys that ran the place, they were like godfathers to me. They took care of me. They were gentlemen. Frank taught me a lot. I could hardly wait to get there and sing. Cause back then we'd sing for 2 weeks in a row, 2 shows a night.
Yeah.
And all the fun and frolic was right there. And you did things and enjoyed life like you couldn't imagine way ahead of time. Kennedy would fly in on helicopters, and there was, it wasn't a media-driven society, so nobody knew what was going on. But the stuff that I witnessed was unbelievable. And I look at it today, and I look at people, I'm probably the last guy that really knew about all that. That's why I'm writing my book. And I really cherish those days. I live in the moment, but I look back at that and I say, you guys have no idea what it was like.
Well, there was just so much talent, too, with that whole crew. Dean Martin is a guy that, it always comes up to this, Frank. Dean Martin, fantastic singer. Then at the same time was one of the best comics, I think, of all time.
Listen, you think he was funny on stage?
Yeah.
You should have seen him off stage. The stuff that went on in that steam room or at dinner. He was, there are guys like that. They are funnier. The stuff that he pulled was, we went one night, Frank had a hard-on for Don Rickles, because Don, was very open-mouthed about the guys. So we went, said, let's go get him. So I followed. We went to the Sahara Hotel, and back then the lounges were a big deal. And he was playing a midnight show at the Sahara. Jilly Rizzo, myself, Frank, there must have been 8 of us. And we go over, we're sitting ringside in a little lounge that held 300 people. And we're ringside. Now everybody's looking at the table. You got Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy, I'm there, I'm unimportant, but I'm there. And there's a bunch of us, and we're just sitting. Dean says, wait, Frank, I'm going to do something, baby. And he went to the newsstand and he brought back newspapers. And he passed each of the newspapers, put them under the table, pal. So we put the papers underneath. 12 o'clock, the big intro. Rickles walks out, sweating before everything starts anyway, because there's Sinatra ringside, who's already been blasting all the... So he just starts his first line, said, Dino says, all right, whip him out. We all pick the newspapers up, open them. We are now reading the papers, exchanging sports scores, while Rickles is trying to perform. That was Dean's humor.
The whole entire audience is looking at you guys and not at the stage.
Of course.
You can't come back from that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're writing all this stuff up, Paul.
Yeah.
I think it's important that these stories are saved as well. When do you plan on having that book out?
We're planning for September. I've got a couple of months more. It's been a cathartic process, and with everything else that I'm doing, it's not as easy as you think writing a book. When you got 54 years, you're going through all kinds of material. It's sensitive. What do I say? What don't I say?
Right.
But I've got 80% of it done. It emanated right here, actually, when I did Howard Stern. I go on with Howard and got a lot of calls. And he and I just clicked. And people are calling in, write a book. Well, I think Howard went on to do a Larry King show, and Larry said, what was your best interview? He said, Paul Anka. And his editor, Steve Cohen at St. Martin's, called and said, do you want to do a book? I said, well, let's talk. So I went and had lunch with him here, and I said, yeah, you know what? Timing is everything. Let's do it. So I've been working on it for a few years, and I should have it up by September.
Isn't that interesting, though, that there's been so many eras that you've been in and out of? Talking about from Sinatra all the way to Stern. Who else to make that connection?
Right.
But you.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, the thread through each decade.
Yeah.
From Michael Jackson to Bublé and then to Stern. It's very interesting.
It's insane when you really think about it. If I guess Forrest Gump could sing and had some hypnosis to him, that would have been your story. Thanks so much. And this Christmas album is out, the Songs of December, and this is one that you love because you do like to set this kind of mood for people.
Well, I like to do something different, and what motivated me, as I said, is, Christmas is not happy for everybody.
Yeah.
But setting that aside and then the commercialism of it, to do something like this, I wanted to do something that was uniquely indigenous to what I felt where we're at sociologically. So, as I said, I've taken these songs, and it's personally been a labor of love to try and capture that mood so that everybody unilaterally can get into it. Didn't want to call it Merry Christmas, didn't want to call it Happy This.
Yeah.
And on an airplane, I just came up with Songs of December and now the interpretations. So it's not just thrown together to have a Christmas album. I think if people embrace it, and we've had great critical acclaim with it, they've gotten the approach and the content of what I wanted to do. And my hat's off to the unsung heroes, the great arrangers. And I learned that from Frank. Always surround yourself with the best guys. So between David Foster and Pat Williams and Chris Walden and Johnny Mandel, I've had a great team of guys here who have taken my vision and put it together.
And when you talk about it's not just about the happy, where does the sadness come in this kind of year? Where does that kind of moodiness?
Well, the sadness is that there are people out there that are not necessarily at a time of year when a lot of feelings do come out. And the sadness is, look, a lot of people out of work. There's a lot of people that have not joy in their life. There's a lot of illness. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of hope that isn't there. There's a lot of everything. So hopefully this CD is kind of a companion to those who may not be enjoying it, but they can find something in it. Trying to find the reality personally of what, it is for me, Christmas, or it's more about children. As a concerned citizen of the world, I'm concerned because I still travel all over the world and I get the vibe as to the tension that's out there. I hope this is an honest contribution where everyone, no matter what Christmas means to them, gets something out of this.
Paul Anka, what a pleasure to have you in.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to read the book. I'll be there the first day to pick it up.
Okay, man. I'll come back and talk to you about it.
And then let's get it made into a movie after that, because these stories are great.
Well, they're already talking about it. I've got two big producers that want to do it, but I want to finish the book first.
Paul Anka, Songs of December. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Good to see you.